Howdy, folks. Today we're talking about one of the biggest challenges in portrait photography: how to pose real people, make them feel confident, and create portraits that look natural, flattering, and powerful. Right after this. Welcome to Camera Shake, where we bring you the insider scoop on all things photography and videography, giving you a unique opportunity to stay ahead of the curve. We've spent literally hundreds of hours interviewing some of the most renowned photographers, filmmakers, and creative entrepreneurs in the world, giving you access to knowledge and expertise that's simply not available anywhere else. And as always, I'm your host, Kersten Luts. And if you're like me and you enjoy free podcast and YouTube content, you can support the show by buying us a coffee over at buymeacoffee.com/Camera Shake. And you know how much I like coffee, you can also check out the official Camera Shake podcast merchandise over at camerashakepodcast.com. So if you like to sport a Camera Shake tee or a hoodie when you're editing, that's where you find it. Every bit of support helps us continue creating more exciting episodes for you. But of course, you're more than welcome to say no. No hard feelings at all. Just know that your support really does make a difference. Now, today's guest really needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He's one of the most respected photographers and educators in the world, known for his incredible ability to pose, direct, and photograph people in a way that makes them look elegant, confident, and completely at ease. We've had him on the show before, and I spoke to him in depth about wedding photography, but this time we're changing the focus. Today, we're diving into posing, portrait photography, body language, lighting, expression, and the psychology of making people look and feel the absolute best in front of the camera. So, if you've ever struggled with awkward hands, stiff poses, nervous clients, or simply knowing what to say when someone steps in front of your lens, this episode is for you. So, without further ado, let's give it up for the one and only Jerry Ghionis. Jerry, man, good to have you back.
Hey, Kirsten, fantastic to be back with you. And yeah, I love talking all things photography, and there's no exception here. So yeah, I love the fact that we're doing a different topic and giving a lot of value to your listeners. So it'll be fantastic.
So, last time we spoke predominantly about wedding photography. This time, I want to dive into the art of posing people. So, if you imagine, your wedding images are really renowned for just being, for featuring striking poses and making the couples, the brides, look amazing. What is there at the at the core of your photography? What is it that you're looking for?
Yeah, it's a great question. Early in my career, I was focused on just making people look pretty, handsome, cool, beautiful, whatever words you want to use associated with that. And I think that as you get older and you're as an artist, you want more purpose. So you start questioning everything you do. When I say that, I mean, it's not like this calculated Terminator style approach that when you're photographing someone, it's such a calculated, and it is, but it isn't. There's certainly technique in terms of the way you work with people, the way you speak to people, build trust. And then as far as portraits are concerned, for me, it's about being meaningful, I think is the most important thing, which obviously implies purpose. And then certainly, depending on what kind of portraits that you're doing, you want it to be flattering. Now, you can be a street photographer on the streets of India and you're happy to see weathered faces and lines on faces and things like that. But if that was a client booking you for a portrait shoot or a branding shoot, they may not want those those lines or that character face that we like. But if it was us, perhaps it'd be a different story. So there's a lot more that goes into it. But for me, it's about being meaningful, purposeful, and flattering if that's the purpose. And when I say, you might say, well, why would you do a portrait where it's not flattering? Well, depends on what you're trying to say. Are you photographing a rapper? Well, you'll photograph a rapper, as in a singer, in a different way than you would a corporate CEO, or an athlete would be very different to a corporate branding shot. So depends on what your purpose is.
That really goes into like headshot photography. This is this thing that I do a lot of because I always say this, like, I would pose and light a divorce lawyer completely differently from a nurse or a doctor because you know it just makes sense. you know.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so when somebody steps in front of your camera, what is it that you're looking for first? Is it is it their face, their body language, their uh, insecurities, the energy, or what
Well,
was it?
it's a hard question to ask, I guess. When I say first, it's a second question, but I feel like what we have to do is establish, first of all, what is the exact intention of the shot or the shoot? What are their needs? What are their wants? What are their insecurities? And obviously, building trust is the most important thing that you have to do with people. So, fully trusting you as their photographer. And, some people see photography as a problem they just have to solve, right? So, I need a headshot. I need a corporate branding shot. I need a dating profile shot. I just need a photo of, you know, my kid who's graduating, whatever it may be. And you sort of have to establish that first. What is the intention? In other words, what's the why? And like I said, as you get older and wiser, you just want more of the why. You want to understand the shot more. And that being said, you can't treat everyone the same. There'll be a there'll be a client that, like I said, it's a problem they have to solve. It's wham bam, boom boom, done done. Thank you very much. Out in 10 minutes, and that's efficient, and it's good enough. That's fine. And then there's going to be people who you'll cry with, and there'll be people that you laugh with. So it really depends on, again, exactly what you're looking for, establishing that rapport. And are you doing a timeless portrait, or are you doing a timely portrait? Now, people often ask me, what is the difference? Timeless, I mean, as you'd appreciate, could be a shot that you look at and you don't really know when it was taken. Some people just say it's timeless. It'll always look beautiful, or it's never dated, or whatever it may be, whatever words you want to associate. So timeless, I mean, apart from the fashion, so sometimes you can tell by the hair, the hats, the fashion, the dress, the suit, whatever, you can tell perhaps in what period it was taken. Timely portrait means that I am celebrating who this person is at this particular time. So I remember a friend of mine photographed Melissa and I several years ago, and to this day, we enjoy the pool probably the 6 months of every year. We play with our two golden doodles. I like to have fun. I like to play basketball in the pool. And, our first house in Vegas, we're there in the front yard. The dogs are there. I'm spinning the ball. I'm cracking up laughing. Melissa's laughing at me because I'm her full time entertainer. The shot was taken, and boom, that was very specific to that time. Like, I had a pool toy on my person. So that's a timely portrait, and it tells me, this is celebrates who I was at that particular time. So what you've got to establish a lot more before you just begin to start photographing, which I know but I just want to sort of qualify the next answers to the question based upon that, because it very much affects which approach I take.
So,
Yeah.
do you do a lot of research before the shoot, or do you establish the rapport when your client enters the studio? What's your process?
Well, the process is that, usually they'll inquire via an email, via a message, hopefully the phone. The idea is to get them on a call, a Zoom call, or even better in person if they're local. A lot of my clients are interstate or overseas. So a lot of my portraits, people will fly to me. I don't know how that's happened. It's just happened. And it's just one of those things. So really, that rapport has to start from the beginning. So, I'll give you an example. I had a recent portrait shoot with a family, and it was only for a graduation portrait. Now, I'm not stupid. There's parents, so it's a hetero couple. So you've got husband and wife, and then you've got a daughter and a sister. So you've got lots of dynamics, and you have a dog. Okay, so I could simply say, "Yep, no worries. Let's do the portrait." Now he's a wrestler. He's won lots of competitions. He's kind of a big deal for his age group and what he's doing and where he's going. And the father very specifically, and the mother for that matter, said, this is very much celebrating him, graduation, but wrestling is a huge part of his life. Now, if I just sort of said, yes, it was transactional and boom, no problem, we'll do everything when you're here, which is possible. I don't need too much time to recreate a look or create a look from scratch because I've got lighting, I've got backgrounds. I can pretty much, within reason, achieve anything. And I establish the look and say, hey, well, do you have a wrestling outfit? Are there things that are meaningful to you? Have you won trophies, championships? Do you have championship rings? Where's your university that you're going to? What are the colors? And so that established that look. Then we said, well, look, while you're here, we certainly should. When's the last time you had a family photograph done? And then, boom, the family photograph comes in. So all of them are involved. Then I was told that the daughter may not be interested because she's that, the typical, uh, young teenage girl who's sort of just doing her own thing, growing into her own skin, and not really excited about the process of photography. And most people aren't. Usually, as you get a bit older, in terms of 18 plus, women buy most of the world's photography, and the mother was excited, whatever. But I got them all excited because I said, I want to celebrate not only who you are individually, but who you are to each other, and then who you are within your family circle. So that one shot that could have taken me 10 minutes to shoot for the exact purpose they asked me for, now it turned into shooting, the guy in 3 ways. One was about wrestling, one was just cool ass dramatic portraits, and one was more casual, like simple, nothing fancy. And if you saw it, you'd think, oh, that's a Jerry portrait. Oh, that's really boring. But that's what he wanted. And then we get mum on her own, him on the father on his own, the daughter on their own, and then all the connections. So that the parents together, dad with each of the kids, mum with each of the kids, and then so there's every combination with the dog, without the dog. We haven't done the sale yet, but I know that the sale will dramatically be a lot more than they originally invested or what they thought they were going to invest in. And I tell them this, I tell them very specifically, this is what I'm doing, um, and why I'm doing it. And they loved the concept. There's no pressure. I'm not going to hard sell them or anything like that. So I guess what I'm getting at is that just gives you one recent example of, where we start. And then I look at what people's love language is. So in other words, what does that mean? Okay, so I go, do you prefer to all jump on Zoom, which we did in the beginning? Let's talk about mood boards. Let's talk about maybe some looks and feels that you want. So I want to give them ownership of the process. So if I just come along and just shoot what I shoot, which I'm sure will be solid, um, if they're emotionally attached to the process of it, then they're probably going to buy more as well. So then I thought, okay, they said text is probably best for all of us. So the mum started a group text, and then we just went back and forth with ideas. So where it would normally maybe be email, even the official stuff was done on text. And then all of a sudden, I sort of see the responses and how much they're into it or not. And then I know I've got to take more ownership of that look. So the teenage girl, for example, she didn't really respond too much. And I said, don't worry, I'll hook you up when you're here because I've got plenty of options. And before you know it, and then probably the last shot of the day was actually photographing her in this big tulle pink dress with grungy boots, which is a bit of an anomaly with a vintage pink chair. The mother went up to me and said, I wouldn't have dreamed that this would even be remotely possible. But, and then the girl didn't even want hair and makeup. Um, and mum said well, I can do my own makeup. I'm not used to it. I go, well, that's exactly why we should be doing it. Because if you want to look like you look like every other day of the week, then you don't really need me. Just your phone out and just take your own photographs, do a selfie, whatever. But if you want something more elevated, so the mum ended up getting hair and makeup. The daughter did. She had very basic makeup, but as we built trust and had some fun with everybody, everyone literally was in the palm of my hand for the whole shoot, and I got some incredible shots of everybody. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that just gives you a recent example of the build up to a shoot. And certainly I can answer your posing questions, but that gives you an idea of how something was done. Yeah.
And I think that's exactly this is exactly the thing that I always harp on about is time. It's a time investment before you actually get people in front of the camera. That's really the thing that builds the connection. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, yeah, because if you just start shooting, I mean, I don't know, people have what they call mini sessions, so, perhaps someone with a different budget, at least 1 day a month, you might do a bunch of mini sessions, and I think that's a great idea. But if your whole business is like that, you're never really gonna develop a meaningful relationship, nor have the time to create meaningful portraits, let alone flattering. Or maybe you do, maybe that's a formula, maybe you just get them in there and boom, 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 and that's fine too. I mean, quantity, driven photographers, as in high volume, make it an absolute killing. It just depends on what business model you're looking for. So,
But they always say
yeah.
the biggest house in Malibu is probably the house of the photographer who's got all the like the what do you call it? Like the passport photo machines in every supermarket. That's like in a shopping mall. Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. That's like if you go for volume, just go all in. But
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I think it's great. Absolutely.
you know, do you think that most photographers just struggle with posing specifically because they don't know, or they either don't know enough poses, or because they don't know how to direct people?
I think it's a lot. I think any skill, the reason why people aren't confident is because they don't really understand the skill that they need for the job they're doing. For some reason, photography or photographers, we're not licensed. You don't need a university degree or anything like that. So you can just open up for business, call yourself a photographer. You charge $1 for what you do. Well, now you're a professional. Well, in the literal sense, maybe, but in the are you a professional photographer? If we liken some people who shoot weddings and portraits, they go in there thinking that they can shoot because they can do it on an iPhone, but they're not caring about technique or posing because there's no experience, there's no repetition, and there's no practice on their craft. So can you imagine that if we likened ourselves to another job or skill level, it's like an accountant who doesn't know how to use a calculator. Now, let's say in this case, we're talking about the calculator for photographers being posing from one sense, because there's many other things we have to worry about. Yes, posing is an absolute art form. People don't practice it enough. They're scared of it. They also feel like their clients demonize it. I want to look natural, which I think is just so ridiculous. Um, the same girl who wants to look natural will spend 2 hours on hair and makeup. So,
Exactly.
like, that's why they say take, your date swimming on the first date, you know?
Mm.
So That's a little bit of a naughty joke that takes a while to understand, but what I'm saying is that, you know and I don't begrudge people putting on makeup or women putting on makeup, or even men, I don't care. Do what makes you feel good, great. But there is an anomaly that we have to understand. The same person who wants to look natural will get hair and makeup done or wear a suit or do whatever. So the implication is that they want natural, but it's really, you know, I mean, Annie Leibovitz sort of says famously that it's not her job to extract emotion out of people, or, she famously doesn't really pose too much and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not begrudging her. I'm a big fan of her work, but a lot of her subjects are very camera aware. They've got media training. They sort of know their looks and feels, and they can create looks that appear natural, but they're moments between moments. And you sort of know that if you do something that's gentle or fun or aggressive or a moment between a moment, that she's going to capture it. So with normal photographers, when I say normal, domestic photographers, as in you photograph weddings and portraits obviously implies like 12 genres. Um, you have to know your stuff. So you have to know where to begin. And the minute someone hires you, they're wary of the camera. So being completely natural is out of the equation. Even right now, I'm looking at you through a teleprompter so I can look and have connection to the camera on this video podcast. So if I was looking down at my computer at you and I didn't have this set up, then that's the same as someone looking into the camera with a big fat lens in front of their face, which means that there's no connection to the actual person. So, you know, getting people at ease, and how do you do that? Well, if it's hair and makeup, it could be, you getting a hair and makeup artist that you know and trust, that builds trust. You're talking to them, you sort of know what rough look that they want with a bit of freedom and flexibility. You're giving them some kind of a champagne, you're giving them, or you ask them, what's your favorite drink? Way before the shoot, you ask them, what's your favorite music? You get a few little cues, and then it's basically very thoughtful that when you're photographing them, that you've got their favorite drink, a Red Bull. It could be, they like Taylor Swift or whatever it is. So it's conditioning the client and the subject to basically be as ready as possible, even before you start posing them. Once they're in front of the camera, then it depends on the person. Sometimes I'll be very loose in my direction because I know that people will feel funny about it, but you've got to prepare them. So I'll give you an example. So let's say if I was photographing a 25-year-old woman, she's just wanting some beautiful portraits of herself, whatever it may be. And then I can say, as beautiful as you are, I can make you shine brighter than ever before with a simple direction. Would you like that? So I might say it in those words, in that tone of voice, but the way I say it, no one's going to say, well, look, no. As beautiful as you are, I'm already saying you're beautiful. I can make you shine brighter. You already shine bright than ever before. I'll do it better than anybody else. Um, and would you like that? And then it's an affirmation that they say out of their own mouth, comes back into their own ears. And now all of a sudden, there's no surprise that posing is fine for them. Then I personally give people a mini lesson. So, for example, if I've got a girl who's come to me with an off the shoulder dressed, a little bit of bust showing, but her armpits and arms are out, as in not covered, I might say something like, hey, it's really important that I give you a bit of a lesson as to what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, because I feel like it'd be important so that we can actually enjoy the process together. And we want some beautiful, flattering images. So, just so you know, if I bring the shoulders back, if I bring the shoulders back and the arms out, I'm going to sort of soften those little pinches of skin over here. Also, I'm going to make your bust fuller and firmer. Also, if I get you to lean forward with your chin, if I say turtle, it means bring your chin out. And what it does, it sharpens the jawline. I never say it makes you look less fat, or it makes your jaw, like I'm saying sharper jawline, sharper. Doesn't matter if they even have a weak chin. They're going to appreciate the fact that I'm going to bring the chin forward. Now, I'm saying I prefer you to go extreme, and then I'm going to ask you to let the air out. So what I used to do was chin forward, chin forward, chin forward, chin forward. There was always incremental. Now I just go extreme, and then I let the air out. I give them metaphors that makes them understand. So posing, I do see as a balloon that some people blow up too much and some people not enough. So that's they're the metaphors that, the kinds of metaphors that I might be using. Then I'll basically say, if I turn your body on a bit of an angle, I'm going to reveal your curves, which is going to be fantastic for this image. If I ask you to arch your back and booty out, we're going to get even more curves. If I get you to lean forward to the camera, I'm engaging what I want the person or you, whoever's looking at this photograph of you, what they want to see. And if it's a woman, any human on earth, usually you want to see the face, the eyes. So if I have the hips closer to the camera than the face, well, I'm going to make the hips look bigger and the face look smaller. Now that might work depending on the body type. So basically, I'm going through. Then I talk about putting the weight on the back leg, bending the front knee, bending the knee over, pushing the butt away from the camera and away from the light, tilting the face, turning the face, all these little things. So I give them that mini lesson. And I also say to them this, it's important that when I'm photographing you, please never say, where do I look? What do I do? I'll always engage you. I'll always let you know. Because I tell them, so if this is, if I was photographing you, I might say, because if you do something really cool on your own and natural or whatever it may be, some little nuance that's unashamedly new, and then you say, what do you want me to do? Like, then I've lost that moment. So I tell them to please follow my direction, follow my energy. So some people also want to be that perfect client where they don't laugh. And I deliberately sometimes get people in a really soft moment, and then I break it by making them laugh. So then the laugh becomes more pronounced than it would have. So sometimes I say to people, if I'm just talking shit to you and having fun, don't be a poker face. Go with me, have some fun. And it's so valuable. It's anything that you buy. I mean, now we buy online, we look at reviews, we do whatever we do, but a lot of people still love that in-person bricks and mortar experience. But if you were buying like a TV, and we know that there's so many different technologies and TVs, and if you just sort of said, "Hey, what's the cheapest?" Then I'll just buy that TV. If someone made you a mini expert, what's the difference between LED, LCD, or OLED, whatever the freaking hell it is? They make you an expert. What do you like? Are you a gamer? Do you watch movies? Is it sports? Is it a bit of everything? Once they make you an expert, then your decision is more qualified. So that's what I'm getting at, is you give people ownership of that process. So if that happens on a shoot, fantastic. Half the work is done. This is even before I've taken a single photo, by the way, right? And then now we can, now we can have a bit more fun.
This episode is brought to you by Platypod. You know these moments when you really need a tripod, but taking one with you just feels like too much effort? Too big, too heavy, too awkward to carry around? Well, that's exactly why I love Platypod. I use it in my own work because it gives me a really solid, stable platform for my camera in places where a regular tripod simply is not practical. There's the rugged extreme for larger camera setups, the incredibly versatile Delta, the compact traveler for when space is tight, and the handle, which lets you position your camera in all sorts of creative places. And for portrait photographers, Bracket & Bounce is a brilliant portable lighting solution. It helps create flattering directional light without dragging softboxes around or depending on whatever ceiling happens to be above you. For landscapes, macro, video, wildlife, portraits, or travel photography, Platypod helps you get shots that would otherwise be difficult or even impossible. Head over to platypod.com to take a look. Platypod, where innovation never sleeps. How much of great posing is technical and how much is psychological?
Oh, wow. Um, that's interesting. Well, in case I didn't mention it in the first podcast, I'll tell people my 5-step process to a great image, and then I'm going to reverse engineer it to help answer that question. Okay, so what I do when I photograph is I look for light first. Okay, I always look for light first. Now, if it's an environmental portrait, almost more so. Now, people will often go to the best location, the best tree, the best wall, the best sky. And I'm like, well, am I photographing a sky or am I photographing a human? Is the lighting going to be more complementary on a face or on the background or whatever? So I look for light first. If location attracts me, I go back and find the good light or create the good light. So light first, location. If I'm in a portrait studio, like in my studio here, and I've got a background, well, technically the backgrounds already exist. So location is number two. The background's already there. So I've got to find the good light or create the good light because it's manufactured if I'm not using natural light coming through a window, a garage door, a doorway, whatever. So light, location. Number three, I pose people. Okay, going back to your question, it's very mechanical at this point. The pose is no emotion attached to it. It's not psychological at all. I've given them that lesson. I'll put them in some kind of pose that's flattering, that is about 80% there, 90% there. And you might ask, what does that mean? Well, it could be refined, improved, but until I go back to my camera and I stand back, I don't really know what's wrong with this yet. But I'm around about 90%. So you might say, well, again, give me an example what that means. It could be that I'm, going back to the 25-year-old woman who wants some beautiful portraits of herself, maybe celebrating her birthday. I'll put her on a chair. She'll lean her elbow on there. I'll turn her face to the light. Um, I'll cross her legs. And then it's quite static. There's no emotion at all. It's not psychological at all. Then what I do is number four is my technique, my camera settings, my lens choice, my exposure. Yes, the refinement of lighting, assuming I've tested it, but everything technically that I'm doing, composition, cropping, everything. Then number five is emotion. So light, location, pose, technique, emotion. Number five now becomes a combination of literal and physical, as well as a psychological or emotional response. Now, sometimes it could be very basic and sometimes it could get very deep. What does that mean? Okay, so it could just mean, okay, lift up your chin, turn your face, tilt your head, turn eyes back at the camera. Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. So I'm refining the pose. It's very technical, but then when I get it right, I'm like, oh, I love that. That's beautiful. Like even my voice is saying, oh, that's gorgeous. Even drop dead gorgeous models that are freaks of nature that just how's this creation made of this beautiful human guy, girl, doesn't matter, you know, needs affirmation. Am I doing it right? Like sometimes they're the most sensitive. They're the most, self-conscious. So bridging the gap between a direction and with a compliment and specific. If I just sort of so if I said, "Lean forward, chin," "Oh, I love that. Oh, your eyes are gorgeous. Oh, I love that. Oh, your lips look so full here. Oh my god, look at that curve. Oh my gorgeous." So it's very I bridge the gap between what I'm saying, with a compliment, and sometimes what I say is very mechanical, but how I say it is a direction. So if I said, to you, Kirsten, chin up, tilt your head to the right. So do it for me. Tilt your head to the right. Okay, turn your face to your shoulder, eyes back at the camera. Now, okay, great. Now, if I said, okay, just relax your body. Okay, breathe out. Okay, breathe in, breathe out. Oh, okay, I love that. Great. Okay, good. Now, turn your face a little bit this way. Okay, so mirror what I do. Turn your face a little bit. That's great. Good. Okay, lean forward. Okay, give me that tilt, a bit more of a tilt. Okay, little hint of a squint, add a bit of mystique. Okay, awesome. So now it went from a mechanical direction to I'm leading you into the emotion that I want by my tone of voice, but what I'm saying is where I want your head placed. And sometimes, I mean, over the years, man, I've done some crazy shots that would not have happened without me. And I say that in a way where there's some photographers who say, I just want to document a wedding or a portrait, but I'm not really involved. It's an environmental story about that person. And I want to document the truth. But what is the truth? The minute the camera's there, sometimes that behavior of that person changes. So sometimes it's not really the truth. Sometimes it could just be a vulnerability or something that I say or how I say it that uncovers that. Let me give you an example. So I could be doing a maternity portrait. And anyone watching right now who's done maternity portraits does 4 poses. Okay. It's going to be this on the belly, that under the belly, this way, or this way. Okay. All right. We're acknowledging the person has a baby. Well, no shit. The belly's there. We can see that they're pregnant. All right. For some reason, all of us photographers, we just hold it. Okay. Well, how do you turn that shot into something more meaningful? Okay. Let's assume the lighting is beautiful. Let's assume there's a hint of light in the back, creating a bit of a rim on the tummy. So you've got beautiful shape. You've got nice flattering light. There's a bit of drama to it. And let's say you've got a hetero couple, you've got the expected father cuddling from behind, and you look at the camera smiling, you take a shot, great. But then you say something like, okay, guys, close your eyes. Put your faces diagonally in together. Okay, I want you to both place your hands on each other and on the belly. Now, just with the warmth of your hands and the way your faces are rubbing together, tell me how much you love your son and how you'll always be there for him till the day you leave this earth. Now what happens? I just gave myself goosebumps because I've done this before. The faces turn even more so. There's a pressure on the brow. Sometimes they even are crying at this point. The hands where they were placed, now they're rubbing. Even just that little tension of the hand or the caressing, the warmth, because now I've humanized the baby. Yes, the baby's human, but I've said son, or even if I know what they're calling the son, I'll say the name. And now it becomes I'm shooting a moment and emotion. But guess what? The lighting was first, which married up to the drama of where I was going emotionally. The location could be nothing. It could be a freaking gray background. Doesn't matter. The pose, I put them in that pose. Hey, hug her from behind. That could literally be the only thing that I say. And then maybe I say lazy Susan. And if for those young photographers out there don't know what that means, it's like a turntable, and they might think, what the hell does that mean? Imagine a rotating table and you keep the pose and you're just literally turning left and right. Okay. It's like when you go to one of those restaurants and you have all these little plates and you do this. So I will say to people, I'll give them a lesson on what that lazy Susan thing means and say, this is keep the pose, but turn. So I get the lighting right. I get my technique, my crop and composition. Then, if you want a shot to look finessed but natural, you build it, break it. Build it, break it. What does that mean? You can build it perfectly posed, near over, weight on the back hip, leaning forward, chin to the outer shoulder, whatever your intention is. But then if you add emotion or you make them laugh, you make them cry, make them hold their breath, the imperfection, let's call it an imperfection, that they do is actually what makes the shot look real. And I can't emphasize that enough. That's one of my superpowers that I love to teach. I love to show people. And you disarm people, and that's where the magic comes. And some people are not gonna be that emo. They're not going to be that couple or that mother that cries. They're very matter of fact, "Here's my belly," or, I work out, I just wanna," whatever you're trying to say. Everyone's a little bit different, and that's how I approach it. So, yeah, anyway, there was a lot to that. I appreciate you, letting me ramble, but hopefully we gave the watchers and listeners here a lot of value with what I just said.
Absolutely. It's I want to see German photographers do that because they're very matter of fact. Left, right, that's it. Go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's something really interesting you said, and it really made me just so the penny just dropped there for a second. Um, although my autofocus doesn't seem to be doing what. Oh yeah, what was going on there? Um, you mentioned just a minute ago that you call the baby by name if you know what the name is, which then basically means that you would have asked the parents previously whether they've named the baby and stuff. And so all
Yeah,
of these
like,
little
do you know the gender? Do you know the name? All that kinda
yeah.
stuff, absolutely.
And it's like, I think of it like breadcrumbs, like Hansel and Gretel, where you lay out these breadcrumbs or you collect these breadcrumbs. And then by the time you actually get to having them in front of the camera, you can sort of almost like capitalize on all these little breadcrumbs of information that you've taken in earlier, which is actually a super clever thing to do. Um, and and also then, of course, when you've got your subject in front of your camera, it requires that sort of that confidence. Um, for photographers starting out, um, do you think that confidence has to be sort of natural part of your of yourself, or is that something that you can learn? And how do you learn to be confident like that with a client?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, let's just take photography away. Empathy is your number one superpower for photographing people. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you know what I mean, but let's just go a bit deeper. Empathy is really understanding what someone is like in their own shoes, and from our perspective, caring about them, listening, understanding. Like everyone wants to be seen, heard, loved, respected, understood. We're not going to all do that or do that for each other, but when someone is, you know, whether you're just starting and you're a hobbyist and someone just wants to be photographed by you, and let's say there's no money exchanging hands, it doesn't matter. The fact is that someone has canvassed a portrait from you, or you've canvassed it, or someone's paid money. So they've given you the most important thing on earth, and that's time. Okay. So you have to respect that the minute time is involved, the most important thing on earth. Health is number two. People think health is number one. I'm like, you could be dying of cancer and die in 5 years, or you've got 1 day left and you die of an accident. So time is more important than you've got health and all the rest of it. But so the minute they invest in their time, it's like, well, now we need to approach it a little bit, differently. In terms of confidence, what a lot of people do, they haven't invested the time in that individual. So now they're sort of starting from scratch. So they're basically glorified photographing a mannequin. And yes, there is millions of ways to photograph somebody, but there are also foundation shots that you can start with, foundation lighting setups, foundation posing, or whatever. So if you're not quite at that point where you can create too much meaning in the photographs, at least make someone look cool and pretty and handsome and beautiful, whatever it is that you're trying to go for. That confidence will come with doing it over and over and over again. And that's the thing, is I've been photographing now professionally for 33 years. I didn't come out of the womb, you know, um, photographing the way I photograph now, and nor do I even am implying that I get it right every single time now. There is no right way. There is just a way. And and it's like that classic Yoda saying, do or do not. There is no try.
I'm loving that we're getting a Star Wars reference. And awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So which is true. There is just, you either doing it or you don't. Like, how well you do it or whatever. I think so confidence will come, as I said earlier in the podcast, with repetition, experience, and practice. No matter what skill it is. Most of us will start a skill by emulating or copying someone else that's done it before, which is the best way to do it. If you're a pianist, you play like Mozart, and I want to feel what it's like to punch in the keys on a piano like he did. And then now I've got it down, but it's not your song, but you know how to do it. Okay, great. There's a formula. Fantastic. Let's start with a formula. No different than a recipe where, a lot of people will now just go online, find a recipe, follow it to a T. But we all know that our mothers and grandmothers cooking is better than any freaking recipe that you'll find on any TikTok influencer. And they don't need a recipe. They've got a little thing. And then today they'll put a bit more of this and a little bit of less of that. And then, but somehow it's the best meal you've ever tasted. So learning the recipe is great. And that'll give you confidence. Empathy will really take you to the next step and the next level. Um, but knowing your camera is a given. And when I say a given, it's not a given. After having after having taught hundreds of thousands of photographers, if I had to guess, online and or in person over the last, 25 years or so teaching. Um, yeah, but there's very few people that will actually know their camera if they're struggling. I'm like, well, again, that is like I often refer to like a video game. You're playing a video game and you can never beat the big boss because you just haven't learnt those moves. The muscle memory of your fingers punching in a certain combination of things will never let you go so far. But most of us, we just want to play the game. So we get in there, we put it over here, and we realize that we can punch and we can kick and, with Mortal Kombat or whatever your game is. And you just can't, you can only get so far. It's the exact same thing with any skill, let alone photography. So confidence comes with just knowing your tools, knowing, how to manipulate light, how to reveal shadows, how to take away shadows, how to complement a subject, how to complement a challenging subject, whether it's aesthetic challenges, whether it's personality, whether it's someone being nervous. So that just comes with time, and it comes with also failure. When I say failure, I mean with cameras now. I mean, this podcast we're filming in, filming 2026. Who knows? Someone might be watching this in 10 years. But ultimately, the technology right now is unbelievable. You can see live exposure, live white balance. You're getting the shot. Like it's literally on the back of your camera. You can play it back. You're seeing what you've got. Why are we taking 100 shots of the same thing? So people need to learn their craft, slow down, to get there quicker. And that's another conversation altogether, but I often will slow down my process to get to the destination quicker. And then when it comes to posing, yeah, I mean, look, I'm not gonna I don't wanna sell my workshop here or my online offerings, but, learn from someone that you respect and admire in a real situation and or teaching into the camera, and you'll build a muscle memory of what to do. And then think of it like you like to sing, you like to go to karaoke every once in a while, and you know now how to literally copy that singer. Like, exactly, okay, I'm gonna sing like Michael Bublé, one of my favorite ones to sing. So I'm now singing "Feeling Good" exactly like Michael Bublé, but he's the 50th person to release a version of that song. Okay, how would I sing that song now? So if you've now the cover version, that's a commodity. You're in and out, and that's fine. People do a great business on just repeating the process and doing something very similar. If you want to tailor make the portrait and make it more personal and meaningful to the individual, now you've got to say, going back to that analogy, well, how would I sing this song? Everyone's photographed people every day. There's billions of photographs being photographed of individuals, selfies, other people. How do you want to sing that song now? You could sing the exact same song, but how would you sing it? Where's the annotation? Where would you pause? And so on and so forth. Any skill on earth, the shortcut is to either find a mentor, whether you're meeting them or not, and learn from their mistakes. And then you got to make your own mistakes. And I just, failure or, oh, I didn't get it. And so many artists are too sensitive and they're so self-deprecating that they never really feel any joy anymore. And I'm like, well, it's not about you. The shoot is not about you. And once you turn that corner, it's just such a different process. I mean, imagine Led Zeppelin playing Stairway to Heaven for the millionth time, but they got to use their experience of the millionth time, but the enthusiasm of their first, because someone would have, traveled halfway across the world to a venue, paid an exorbitant amount of money to listen to that and not feel like this is just the millionth time. And, you know, and that's what we do. You know, there are certain parts to our job or as a photographer that are repetitive, but especially for portraiture, you know, you're really photographing individuals for different needs. Like we said at the earlier part of the podcast, that there are high volume studios that's not meant to be that meaningful. It's just here you are. This is what I look like. It's not really who I am, but this is what I look like. And then when you get to a portrait session, I reveal a facet of who I am. I mean, people say, "Oh my God, I can see my whole I understand exactly who this person is." No, by one expression, you'll know a lot, but you won't know every facet to every human. We don't know ourselves, let alone how we're going to capture everyone. I think, you know, so when as a side topic, when people say that, it's, "Oh my God, like, you know, yes, I captured their soul." Did you though? I mean, there's a facet of their soul. It's purely, it's a fraction or it's a moment, and maybe we've revealed and immortalized a moment that maybe captures maybe who they are. But at the end of the day, I'm also realistic enough to know that that is just the tip of the iceberg. But it's fun not getting there. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, man, but anyway, I know we were always going to divert the conversation, but um, if you want to, um, if you want to go back to the posing that's been pitched as the reason for our podcast, then yeah, maybe we'll go
I
back. Maybe we'll go back on point.
I always have to pitch a reason for an episode.
Yeah,
Then
of
the
course.
conversation goes to wherever it goes. But you know, I think people are
Yeah,
probably
of
used to
course,
that
of
better.
course.
Um,
Yeah, of course.
so you know, your poses are really, you know, when I look at your work, there's certain elegance, you know, to what you do. What is it that makes a pose look elegant rather than stiff? I think one of the problems that a lot of people have especially when they start going down this road, is that they find that their images or their poses look kind of stiff to start with. How do you get that elegance into that?
Yeah, there's a few ways. So I think just without emotion attached to it, I think probably the easiest way that I can explain good posing is a puzzle. So for example, you're photographing a couple, and if two faces fit like a puzzle, doesn't matter how they fit, it's going to look incredible. So when you do a puzzle, I mean, I know a lot of the pieces look similar, but traditionally, one piece will only ever go in one spot, like perfectly. With posing, the beauty is that that one piece can go in many spots, but as long as it feels like it fits in, that's great. So, in other words, if you're photographing me, right? So I've got, you know, let's say I've got this big patch of skin, and then I brought Melissa, my wife, here, and she put, you know, her eyes here and her nose in. So therefore, her face is fitting in like a puzzle with my negative space, so to speak. Now I have a beard, sure, but does that make sense? If I have, let's say I'm doing a shot with Melissa, and you know I'm here, and then she's just under my nook, and I'm cuddling her. Again, our faces, forehead, neck, whatever, fit like a puzzle. Same thing with bodies. If it looks disconjointed, if that's a word, disjointed, then it doesn't look right. If it's not meant to be romantic, if it's just meant to be editorial and cool, and we're doing a fashion campaign and they're not meant to be in love, yes, you can break a lot more rules. But if you want some kind of intimacy suggested, as in this is a couple, then there needs to be some harmony in that. So again, fit uh, uh, two faces in like a puzzle or whatever. Now you might think, well, how do I use that technique or that understanding if it's an individual? Well, it could be in their environment. It's simply a staircase. Could be the idea of the pose. It could be I'm leaning on the banister. I'm putting my one toe on the top on the top stair. I'm bending their knee. I'm putting the chin to the outer shoulder, which is very feminine. So if I bring my chin, so if I'm there, I'm square to the camera. It's quite masculine, right? If I turn my body and my face towards the light, it's quite masculine. If I now watch this. I'm going to keep my face here. Look back at the camera, but now let me turn my shoulders. Then the chin to the outer shoulder and the eyes back looks feminine. So what I'm getting at is, like, there's so many more of those. There's literally thousands of those little nuances, but i- you have to look at photographs and diagnose them and say, well, what is it about this that does look soft, fierce, feminine, masculine? strong, heroic, weak, ridicule, whatever you're trying to go for, you know? Yeah.
How did you learn those, all those different, nuances? Did you is was it literally just, trial and error, or did you analyze photographs, magazines? What was the thing that got you there?
Screwing up a lot. So basically, and I gotta say, man, my eyes were opened so much recently, and I'll tell you why. So, Melissa and I just went to Australia for a couple weeks. It was an impromptu trip. We have a very sick friend. Um, that's another story altogether. But we're basically there, and we were cleaning up a storage unit because we're sort of slowly every single year we'll get rid of something. You know, the car that we had, we leased out our apartment, we had a storage cage, whatever, and all this stuff. So I was going through like a lot of my history. I had negatives, literally. I photo like from man, like and transparencies when I was 15, and I just turned 53 a month or so ago. So I'm seeing my history in these suitcases, and I have all these magazines that I've been published in, and even the ones where I was just a hobbyist. I had photographs, and I went to the tennis. I mean, you name it. I had photographs in almost any kind of genre. And I gotta say, um, I thought I was pretty good back then. So,
Oh, no.
um, but, when I say I thought I was pretty good, I think most of us go through that delusion, and I say this with respect because I'm giving you my vulnerability here. I look back, and because I'm such a present person, I look back at my images and I'm like, "I had so much joy photographing this and photographing that or trying this or trying that." Um, and I appreciated that, and my joy of the process, which I'm still obsessed by, my joy of the process made me feel that my images were good. And it's like someone trying wine for the first time, liking it, but not really knowing what good wine tastes like. I appreciated the wine, so to speak, at that time. Now and then, so I couldn't if I was to ship everything in its entirety, it would have cost a small fortune because we bought 4 suitcases of stuff. We went there with 1.5 and we came back with 4 each. But I was bringing back stuff, that were meaningful to me and stuff, but I couldn't bring every magazine that I was published in. I couldn't do every news article. So often I photographed them. So I was photographing them as a bit of a historical record, so, posterity, whatever. But man, I look back and I'm like, if I was in that position again, I would have changed this, 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 this. If I did this, I would have done that, 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 that. And then I look at it, and my early work, I was still proud of and joyful of, but I'm like, I placed that portrait client or my friend, cousin, whoever I was photographing, I just placed them in the light. Didn't really know about shadows, didn't really understand the direction, didn't really understand the nuance of making someone look softer, curvier, stronger, whatever it was. But then there was a turning point, and I started looking at my articles because I used to do a lot of fashion editorials, and like I'd get the covers of magazines. I'd get like a 10 pages in a magazine, and I looked at them as I was photographing them. I'm like, holy shit, like what happened? It's because it was almost overnight. It's because I started breaking down exactly what I did, and more importantly, why I made those technical or decisions or posing decisions. Um, and then I just started being very deliberate. In other words, I would fluke good lighting, not really know why it's good lighting. I would fluke a decent pose. I would fluke a good crop or a compelling crop or whatever it is that I was doing. And then it was very deliberate. So, because I would sit there and diagnose images and everything like that, and I remember, yeah, that was a very deliberate choice to really diagnose my work. But the thing is, it still didn't rob me of the joy. I think too many people who start photographing are just always self-deprecating. This is only good because I get 1,000 likes on Instagram or whatever your love language is, and that was never the thing for me, and it still isn't. I love the process, the creative process. And sometimes it's not even with a camera. It could be a business concept, an idea, branding or something. But yes, being behind the camera is sort of my one of my favorite things on earth. And yeah, the confidence that goes with it, I just if ever I'm in my head, and I'm having a bad day, and we all have bad days. You're just not feeling joyful. You're not feeling great, whatever. And I'm like, Jerry, it's not about you. It's about them. And the quickest way to not be depressed is to think about somebody else. And all of a sudden, your expectations go away. Your insecurities go away. You're totally focused on the humans in front of you, and it becomes such a more fruitful, purposeful approach. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think the thing about social media generally, it sort of gives you this false sense of I don't know worth. I don't know if worth is the right word to use, but because you sort of measure your own success almost like in the number of likes, or hearts or whatever it is that you get. Which is incidentally why I hate the like Facebook on this day 10 years ago feature, because when the app comes up and you look at a photo, because the thing is, I, I admit it, I'm probably old. That's why, I'm still hanging around on Facebook. But, I look at a shot that pops up from like 8 years ago or something, 10 years ago. And I look at it and I think, my first reaction is, "Wow, that's not as good as I thought it was when I posted it back then." But then the next thing, there's 2 things that happens. One is I think I immediately take it apart and I sort of analyze and go like, "Well, here's what I would do better," which is important because that's the learning part. And the other thing is I remember the process of how I got there at the time. And actually, then this idea of how good is it all of a sudden becomes relative to where you were at that time or at that point,
Sure.
because back then this may have been the best thing since sliced bread for measured by your own ability at the time, and
Sure.
really would have been a worthwhile achievement at that time, you know, and definitely would have would have warranted being celebrated. But of course now you're 10 years older and you've learned a whole bunch of stuff and you can do things better now, or different, not necessarily even better, but you would do them differently. This is the thing I always find is
Sure.
the
Yeah.
things, the way I lit stuff 10 years ago, I just don't like things like that anymore because I've learned, and changed. I've gotten older, and I'm still on Facebook.
Yeah.
Fe-
Well, you've learned what good wine tastes like, but it doesn't diminish the taste of when you had it or back then. I often look with, and I'm sure we all do this. We look back at those images that are forced upon us, like with those, 10 years ago or whatever.
Mm.
It's it's a bit of a nostalgia. I had a ball doing this. Like I literally brought all my negatives from when I was a kid. I brought them all with me. Am I ever gonna scan every single one of them, look at them? Probably not, to be honest. I'm probably gonna make a sculpture out of them. Is what my intention would be. I might put them all in resin and unload them, and then this is my history in a capsule, and maybe when I leave this earth, someone will be interested, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's I just think that failure is a foundation to success. It's a step to success, and you'd never learn a single thing from your successes. You don't. It's a pat in the back. It feels good, but the growth happens where the so-called failure is. And yeah, man. And in terms of ideas, like you touched upon concepts or ideas and stuff like that. And one of my favorite sayings that I said naturally in a seminar and people really resonated. So now I'm very deliberate when I say this is creatives aren't short of ideas. The challenge is committing to one. So what is the right one? There is no right one. There is just a way. There is one way. So it's execution. Just so people say, "Oh, that could have been better." Well, could it be perfect? Well, there's not such thing as perfect. People think perfect means flawless. Well, is there anything flawless when it comes to photography or anything subjectively art? No. There's just a taste. There's a perspective. There's the commission. There's the execution. There's the result. So for me, it's just I just and when you're going back to that confidence thing, do I think I'm the best in the world? No. Do I think people are better at me than a lot of the stuff that I do? Yes. Am I the best at what I do? Yes. But that's true for everyone. Let me explain that because it sounds arrogant, but it's not. I am a unique combination of nature, nurture, where I was born, where I grew up, my siblings, my parents, how I went to school, every interaction I've ever had, where I am now, what I photograph, what I do. Basically, there is no one like me, which basically means even if I was shit at what I do, I can still claim that I'm the best at what I do. So appreciating and coming from a place of gratitude. I'm alive, I'm breathing, I've got a roof over my head, I've got food to eat. I'm already winning. Then I'm in an incredible industry that can be challenging. The hustle is real, all that kind of stuff. But now when I'm photographing, why would I rob myself of the joy that got me here in the first place by feeling that I can do better? Well, do it better next week. That's not your job today. Your job is to be the best you can be with your skill level, with this particular human, with this amount of hours that you've allowed for it, and that's it. So obsessed with the process and I'm obsessed with people until I'm not. Once that shoot ends, I retire it. I'm done. I almost never think about it again until I have to do something with it, whether it's culling, whether it's selling it, whether it's producing it, sharing it, whatever it may be. So, yeah, man, I know we got philosophical, but you know me, I'm always a bit deeper than than maybe the cliche answers. But yeah, man, don't rob yourself of the joy. Have some fun. Know where you're going with it, and like I said, you're in your own head. It's not about you. Get it in front of anybody else. And when it comes to social media, man, having 1,000 likes or whatever your goal is like being rich in Monopoly. It might feel good, but most of the time it doesn't really matter, you know? It doesn't matter. I know people who are making millions in their studio and have barely got 300 followers. So who's winning? The person who needs validation or the person who's making an incredible living, making a difference to their clients? So now, if you can do both, great. And there's many studios or photographers that actually get all their work from social media, go for it. But you don't need 1,000 people to like you. I would rather one of those 1,000 book me
Yeah, well, yeah.
and give me $1,000. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
exactly.
Or 10,000. So
Yeah.
yeah, man. Sometimes when I'm shooting, and things are, we're running out of time where I'm struggling, I'm not getting the emotion that I normally get or whatever, then I'll just focus on making them look aesthetically beautiful, handsome, whatever it may be, or whatever the purpose is. And will I resort to tried and true, proven, I've done it a million times kind of a pose or lighting situation? Of course. So not everything is going to be groundbreaking. Day-to-day work is not going to be groundbreaking, but it will be beautiful and meaningful for the client.
Are there any poses or styles you used to love that you just wouldn't use anymore today?
Yeah, I mean, look, having started my career mostly with weddings, and now I do a bit of everything, but in the wedding environment, it's anything cheesy. The jumping up in the air, effects for the sake of having an effect, and I'm guilty of that. In fact, I probably popularize a lot of what people are doing now. Um, having a bride and a groom, and then just having the bridal party walk past and blurring them. Well, like, I'll often ask a wedding photographer, "Well, why did you do that?" "Oh, it's fun." "Okay, it's fun." Well, like, it's not meaningful, but people enjoy a spectacle. They enjoy the wow. At my age now, the wow is a beautiful, tender moment between the grandmother and the bride. It's a tender moment between the bride or the groom, or the groom and the groom and the bride and the bride, whatever it is. Um, they're the wows for me. So, rather than those cheesy ones, I remember, like, there was uh, a trend back in the day where, if you were, I don't know, you were photographing and then a cop car would be there, you'd ask the cop, "Hey, can you put handcuffs on the groom, like he's being taken away and the bride's there?" Like, oh, bloody hell. Or it's all hugging a tree and shit like that. I mean, like, there's just cliches. Um, I think what's happened now, how I talked about being timely and timeless, as in
Mhm.
your portraits. See, photography is also a reflection of who you are as a photographer. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, obviously I can have a niche, right? Like, I'm that flare guy. I'm that backlit guy. I'm the off-camera flash girl. Whatever it is that you are, like, you can have a particular genre or a shtick. And is there anything wrong with it? Not really. I mean, at the end of the day, you can do what the hell you want. I just feel like your approach should really reflect the person that you're photographing. Now, yes, if you advertise a certain style, you'll attract those clients, so that marries beautifully well. But the idea is that you can chop and change and you can modify based upon who you're photographing. Um, yeah, man, I went on a tangent there again, but it's
Yeah. Do, do,
it's interesting to talk about.
do you think modern portrait photography has become too casual or too perfect or too trend driven?
I, well, this is the thing. It's easy from someone in my experience to sort of look at a new generation of photographers and dismiss them as you're just photographing trends. I was that person, and then I created those trends. Now I don't really care about trends. So I think everyone has to go through that. I just think that's a growing pains of an artist or a photographer. And notice how I said those things are different. You can be a photographer without really being an artist, and but you can also be an artist. Photography is just your medium. So, yeah, man, yeah, I think that I think that we I think the older generation needs to accept that we have a lot to learn from the younger generation in terms of being fearless behind the camera, social media, posting frequently, getting themselves out there in a different way. Whereas a lot of us who are 40, 45, 50 plus, we don't really care about that as much in terms of being visible and being trendy and being popular. We're just happy to make a living and do what we love. But I find that an older generation is being phased out by not embracing what this younger generation is doing. And the smart ones will follow trends. You know, they will use popular music that is trending. They will use effects. And this, I had this. I don't think you didn't really get to this part of the conversation, but it's inspired it, I guess, with my thought process. Is you know, I even said to a class. It was a couple of weeks ago. I was in a 2 3 weeks ago. I was in a class and people ask me about the younger generation and get off my lawn type of thing, and I'm like, I love it. The fact that another generation is embracing photography and experiencing trends that we experienced decades ago, but they're really enjoying it, loving it, and camera drag and movement and whatever. And I'm like, but what about all these young photographers teaching bad technique? And I'm like, there is a shit ton of people teaching bad technique because everyone says on social media you should be an expert, show your authority, and then show bad technique. And I'm not saying according to me, I'm saying, like if you're a singer, you're not reaching the pitch, you're not reaching the tones, you're just not crafting it correctly. But back then, what we did, and it was a running joke. Again, I'm sounding old here, but there was a running joke then when you had a bad photograph, you'd make it black and white, add grain, add a vignette, and now it's art. Okay. So now the new generation, well, what do? Well, they're just using something a little bit sexier. They add cool music, cool edits, and they can make an ordinary shoot of 5 shots look like an epic shoot by editing music, just the way it's shown on a feed. And I'm thinking, that's freaking brilliant. If I was just starting as a photographer, I would do the exact same thing. Do I have the patience for it now? No, I don't care about being popular. I'd rather make a living and do what I love. You can be all of the above. I just think everyone will go through those growing pains. And I'm not saying they're growing pains. It almost sounds like I'm diminishing it. I'm actually doing the opposite. I'm respecting any voice, wherever you are at in your journey. I think it's brilliant. If you're doing what you love, and more importantly, you can make a living from it, either partially or full time, welcome to the industry. And I'm really excited as an individual, as a teacher of photography. I love it because I've got a whole generation that that I want to learn from, and I know I can offer to them as well. And it's interesting because like I fully expect one day people will stop showing up to my workshops or seminars or gigs. And over the last couple of years, there's just this whole young, fresh audience that knows who I am, knows about what I do. And I'm like, I fully expect one day that not to happen. But I'm like, well, yeah, I think it's a responsibility. If there's a lot of photographers of experience who are not teaching the younger generation and dismissing them as just irrelevant or hacks, Well, you're part of the problem because you're not part of the solution. Why don't you help your younger generation? How do we do that? We have to meet them where they are. So just literally now, I've had long social media breaks, but I've just restarted, and I've got hundreds of clips from my real shoots where I'm basically sharing on social media. Well, that's the way I'm going to be showing my technique, but in a digestible format that will attract that young audience. So, like I said, I'm excited about the younger generation of photographers. I was the same person. It's just a different time and a different vehicle, but ultimately it's the same thing.
Uh, and also, I mean, I think that every generation has a set of tools that the generation before them didn't have. Social media actually being one of them. Like when
Mhm.
I was 20, there just wasn't a thing. I mean, there wasn't such a thing as social media. I mean, there's barely email, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so we just didn't we just didn't have the tools to make reels and stories and clips and all that kind of stuff. And vertical video. If anybody 15 years ago, if anybody told you that vertical video would be a thing that, like, slapped you on the face if you done, it's like, "What do you mean vertical video? Shut up." You know?
Yeah,
Now
yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
and, it just goes to show I remember, the first time my flatmate had I remember buying my first, mobile phone or cell phone, as he call it, and it had a green screen, and this was before text messaging was a thing, and I remember scrolling through the menu, and there was this thing called SMS messaging or something. I came up in the menu, and I asked my flatmate, I'm like, "What is that? What is that thing?" And he goes like, "Oh, well, it's a thing that, engineers use to communicate with each other, but they're gonna make this publicly available from, like, next month or something like that, and everybody can write text messages." And I really was like, "Why the heck would anybody wanna do that? Like, that's never gonna
Right,
catch on, ever."
right,
You know?
right.
What did I know? I mean, it's again, just proves to show that we just don't know what's gonna happen. I find it
Yeah,
very interesting to see the differences between my you have 3 kids, the 2 older ones in their early 20s, and the youngest one just turned 15, and even within that age gap of, like, 7 years, there's already a huge difference, you know? The 15-year-old will use tools and do stuff where the my 22-year-old goes like, "I feel old now." That's it.
yeah, 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 of course. Yeah, yeah, it is what it is, man. Like I said, I welcome it. I welcome anyone to the industry. Um, like I said, do what you gotta do to survive, do what brings you joy, but I think all generations have a lot to learn from each other. And if you're an artist, it means you're a student. You're a full-time permanent student, and if you're not curious, then you're not learning, and you're not an artist if you're not curious. So, I just think we should be more curious than judgmental. Simple.
So, if anybody who's been listening to this podcast, who's been watching it on YouTube, and is really intrigued when it comes to learning posing, um, if somebody practiced one posing skill for the next month or so, what would that be?
It's hard to say one posing skill. Where would I begin? Maybe to rephrase your own question there, I would say, first of all, the easiest way you can pose someone is get them to mirror you, as we did before. Like, I know that the cameras might be back to front
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff, but if
Yeah.
but if the way you see me on your screen right now, if I just simply said, "Mirror me," just go for it.
Oh, yes, it's the opposite basically of what you do.
It doesn't matter, just like, so what I'm getting at, that's the easiest way to pose someone. Now, the next step is you need to know what to do to actually get them to mirror you. Okay, that's the next thing. And in terms of one skill, it's just understanding the body and what's going to be flattering. Maybe start with flattery before purpose. I think that's the first step. Flattery. And you look at every joint, every facial feature, and work out how to make it more flattering. So I'll give you a speed dating posing lesson for a face. You want to do that?
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
Okay. All right. So look at me. I have a massive forehead. Okay, it's big. If I was to do this towards a camera, it makes my head look even bigger. So I'm not going to do that. If I bring my chin up, I shorten the actual height of my forehead. Okay, so there's one way. Also, I can use shadow. I can do a whole bunch of stuff. Now, Also with eyes, usually one eye is bigger than the other. So what I would do is if it's one is smaller, I would turn the small eye to the camera. So it makes the small eye appear bigger. If I get the bigger eye closer to the camera, it's going to appear larger still. Okay, if I had pronounced ears, what I would not do is photograph someone profile. What I would do is I would turn them. So let's say it's this way. So one ear disappears, okay? This ear disappears, and then the ear that is actually visible, I would not have contrast. So you see the light behind me is giving that ear contrast. Well, if I was basically to move, let's say it's all back to front. Oh, do you see how now I'm getting rid of both ears? One ear is in shadow and one ear you can't see. All right, what happens if you've got a really long nose? Well, same thing with the forehead. So if the height of my nose is this, if I bring my chin up, well, it's actually smaller. It's a crude example, but it shows you. Um, if I want lips to look fuller without pouting, I'd get someone to breathe through their mouth rather than pouting because everyone knows you're pouting and it looks ridiculous. If you want a softer jawline, it's chin out and a tilt, and then use that shadow, which is what I've got right here. And I've got a beard, so I've got the shadow side on both sides. Um, you know, eyes that are too prominent and too fixed and staring, a hint of a squint, flex the under eyelids. It adds mystique, adds intrigue, rather than looking like this. So, I mean, there's so many things there, but that just gives you like you that's what I'm basically saying is that now look at the rest of the body and say, how would I complement shoulders? Well, shoulders would be back. How would I make a woman's bust look fuller? Shoulders back, lean forward with your chest rather than leaning forward because you would hunch. The way I ask it, lean forward with your chest. And then I could go on and on and on and on. But that's what I'm getting at is, and if this is overwhelming to you, if you're just listening for the first time, you should understand this because there's so much to it. There is so much to it. So yeah, practice, repetition, experience will always be your best teacher, and arguably also a Jerry Ghionis seminar or workshop.
Just going to say, you should join one of your workshops. Absolutely. Is this something a photographer should study outside of photography? To become better at posing and portraits, like for instance, cinema, sculpture, something like that.
Oh yeah, look, sculpture is one of my favorite art forms. I think photography is number one, probably music number two, number three is sculpture. I have maybe 6 or 7 sculptures in my home that I stare at every day, and sculptures that were done like way better than a photographer could and using Photoshop. So because artists back then, you just how do I say? Oh my goodness, like that's why I respect the craft so much. I'm not begrudging a younger audience or even an older audience that's never learned the craft. I'm just saying, well, help. I want to teach you and not Jerry's way. Let me give you a foundation of craft and then you can go sing your own song. So sculpture for me is a beautiful art form because someone did what we're trying to do in a camera. They've done it with a bronze medium or, literally stone and chisel or acrylic. And it's breathtaking. So I do surround myself with those kinds of things, and it basically reminds me to stay true to a craft. I've got one of my favorite, probably my favorite piece of art in the world is Frederick Hart's. He's a sculptor, and he's passed now, but has this beautiful part of the facade on the Washington Cathedral in Washington DC. And if you've ever seen The Devil's Advocate, the movie with Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves, there is a moment at the end where that wall comes alive. That's my favorite art in the world. I have a fragment of that piece of art because he would use stone, he would use bronze, but he would also do this. He pioneered acrylic sculptures. And there's a fragment of that favorite piece of art in the world that's called Ex Nihilo, out of nothing. And it's this beautiful, beautiful representation of the birth of man and woman, almost going into a vortex. And it's acrylic, and I've got it backlit. So when I watch TV, on the left-hand side of it is this sculpture, and I just stare at it all the time. and it reminds me of what beauty is, commitment to craft, mastery of craft, and yeah, it helps me not be lazy because these people did it in a more difficult medium, and now I see everything live. I can shoot raw. I can press a button. I can just slide something, and everything changes. Like, there's still a moment that has to be captured. There is still direction. There's emotion. There's feeling. There's cropping. There's composition. There's still so many different things that we need to do in camera. So I don't know that there's plugins now that can change lighting literally and realistically, and I'm like, that's fine. I just need to get it in camera. Otherwise, it's not mine. So therefore, there's no creative satisfaction. You know. But anyway, again, we're diverting a little bit, but it's always it's always going to be a stimulating conversation about different things.
Absolutely. Now, as always, we're going to finish off with a quick fire round, 6 questions. You ready?
Sure. Yep.
All right. Natural light or studio
Anything that illuminates, I'm going to give you that answer.
light? Excellent.
Well,
Uh,
let me say, Ice Light 3. Let's be self-serving right now. Yes,
yes.
Ice Light.
In fact, I've got one just over there, which is
Oh, there you go.
me to grab. But yeah, there you go.
Fantastic.
Prime lenses or zoom lenses?
Currently obsessed with primes.
Okay, what's your favorite?
Ask me 85, 1.2. That's my favorite.
I just got one of those a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
is
beautiful.
It's
Yeah.
it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Black and white or color?
Again, man, I hate to say it. It's whatever suits the subject matter and what my intention is. So when it's black and white, I'm very passionate about it. When it's color, it's color. And I know that you after rapid fire. Let me just quickly say, if I want something in black and white for a client, I shoot it on black and white. Yes, it's raw and I can go in any direction after the fact, but I'll shoot it in black and white because I know that once you see it in color, it's hard to unsee it in color. So if I want black and white, I'll show it. And then once you see it, it's also hard to go back to color because you don't know the difference. So yeah.
Absolutely. And if you want to learn more about this, I highly recommend you checking out the Creative Life class that I've just recorded, where I discuss exactly
There you
that.
go.
Little plug there.
There you
There you
go.
go. Okay, film or digital?
Oh, digital. I don't know why you would bother with film.
Cool.
It's that's a whole other conversation, but yeah, digital. Yeah.
One word to describe great portrait photography.
Compelling.
That's great. Okay, this is the last one. Elegant hands or relaxed hands?
Well, elegant hands are relaxed hands.
Uh-huh. Oh, actually, I've got one more.
Let me explain that though, just real quick. All
Just
right.
for context, yeah.
So real quick. Okay. So I'll do this with my hand, right? This is me being natural. It's not this. It's this.
Right.
So once you look at it, then that's the way you would pose most hands, especially on a woman. Does that make sense? I'm not even thinking about it. It's basically the weight of my elbow, my arm are holding out my hands. So sometimes just doing nothing, letting it sort of happen gracefully and naturally is the way you pose hands. But anyway.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this on audio, I'd highly recommend you check out the video version on YouTube because you can actually see Jerry demonstrating all these things. Okay, actually, I've got 2 more questions. What's the biggest posing myth?
The big 100% is that it's mechanical, it's orchestrated, it doesn't look natural, it's demonized. Like, yeah, the myth is that it's just, yeah, we shouldn't do it because it implies inauthentic approach.
Okay, the last question. Coffee or tea on a shoot day?
Well, again, it's not a straightforward answer. I'm 53. I only started drinking coffee a few years ago. So it would be probably a Diet Coke, but coffee if it was a choice.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've always loved the smell of coffee, but never liked the taste, and then we
Yeah.
moved to this new house, and Melissa was there, like, in the patio, and it's tribal. I realized that it's a tribal thing, and I said, "Oh, make me a coffee," and she freaked out and loved it, and now it's more of a communal thing, but I could stop tomorrow and, like, not really care, so
Yeah. Yeah,
but go on.
that's how I feel about whiskey. I know nothing about whiskey. I've never really drunk with it, never liked it. And then somebody who I don't want to mention, Steve Brazel, kind of got me into it, and now there's no stopping me. And I still know nothing about it, so
Well, I'm obsessive, so I deliberately don't try things that I might like
yeah,
because then I'd love them forever. And so that's why I'd never drink. I mean, maybe a beer every once in a while, but I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't take drugs. Like I'm I can't do any of that because if I like it,
yeah.
I will be that guy that will probably end up in a ditch somewhere, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big drinker at all. It's, it's more of a tasting. I think, my wife says the same thing about me, she goes like, whenever I start with a new fad, and she goes like, "Oh, is that what we're doing now?" Like, yeah, because, I do have to watch all the film noir movies that have ever been made, like, in the next 2 weeks because that's just the trip I'm on at the moment, but then I get super
Yeah, yeah,
obsessive
yeah.
with this stuff, so yeah. Jerry, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show again. Thank you so much for taking the time and being the guest on the Camera Shake podcast this week.
Pleasure, mate. Thank you. I mean, I see you almost all the conventions. We always sort of stroll past each other, and obviously always happy to have a conversation that uplifts photographers and all that kind of stuff. That's fantastic. And for anyone who wants to learn more from me and about me, go to jerryjerryjerry.com with a J. So it basically has every link to everything that I do. So whether you want to learn from me in person at a 5-day workshop here in Las Vegas, which is coming up, whether you want to just watch me work, that's a different place to go. If you want to watch me teach into the camera, there's another place to go. So there's a lot of offerings there, but yeah, jerryjerryjerry.com with a J. And yeah, can't wait to make a difference to you guys.
And of course, all the links are in the description, no matter whether you're watching this on YouTube or whether you're listening to the audio version of this podcast. Jerry, thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt. All the best.
Okay, folks, that's it for today. And what a conversation that was with the incredible Jerry Ghionis. I hope you got as much out of this episode as I did, because posing is one of those things that can completely transform your photography. It's not just about where someone puts their hands or how they stand. It's about confidence, connection, direction, body language, expression, and knowing how to make the person in front of your camera feel like they're in safe hands. A huge thank you to Jerry for joining us again and for sharing so much insight into the art of posing in portrait photography. Make sure you check out Jerry's work, his education, and everything he's up to. All the links, as I mentioned, will be in the description below. And now I'd love to hear from you. What's your biggest struggle when it comes to posing people? Is it hands? Is it expressions, body shape, directing clients, or just simply knowing what to say during a shoot? Drop a comment below and let me know. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you don't miss future episodes, and share it with a photographer friend who could use a bit of posing inspiration. And of course, if you're listening to the audio version of the show, please follow the podcast, leave us a review, and head over to youtube.com/camerashake to watch the video version over there in full Technicolor. You can also support the show over at buymeacoffee.com/camerashake and check out the official Camerashake podcast merchandise at camerashakepodcast.com. A brand new episode drops every Thursday, so make sure you come back next week for another conversation with some of the greatest and inspiring voices in photography and filmmaking. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep shaking things up in the world of photography, and I'll see you next Thursday.